Marco, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jonathan Herps, founder and CEO of the Scale Up Growth Partners. Welcome, as I mentioned to you, to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where we're chatting with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling up companies. It centers around your entrepreneurial journey so far and your aspirations for your company. So today we're speaking with Marco. I'm going to say the English version, Viglietta, but do you want to do the Italian version?
Viglietta.
Okay, I'll keep practicing. He's Managing Director at Avion International, Australia. I'm going to tell you a fun story. Marco and I were scheduled to do this last week, and I got this text from Marco saying, "I'm really sorry, I've got to pull out. We're having an inspection by the Australian Border Force," which I have to say is, I think, the best excuse for not turning up to something I've ever heard. So as we go through, Marco, I might get you to explain part of what you do and why that happened. So welcome, and let's start.
Thanks for having me.
What do you do, and what does everyone do?
Well, again, my name is Marco Viglietta, and I'm actually an international freight forwarder. Recently developed in third-party logistics services professional as well. Why I say so recently? Because obviously my expertise is in the international freight forwarding services, but nowadays more the services are complete, and more we can cover the range of and we can give answers to our client. Obviously, we enlarge the range of our services, offering third-party logistics solutions.
Okay, do you want to expand on that a little bit? So do I commission you to send something somewhere? How does it work?
So what an international freight forwarder is basically a professional which instead to send people and passengers all around the world, like a travel agency, the very simple example that I can give, instead to send people around the world, we are sending cargos. And we are actually trying to find the best service solution for cargos to be moved around the world. So in and out Australia in this instance, but not only, via sea, via air, or via road, or via rail, if we are talking about land transportation as well.
Great. So how would you describe what I would call your core customer? The perfect customer for you. Do you have a vision or a view of what that customer looks like?
Yes, indeed. Obviously, freight forwarders, they can develop their own clientele amongst different type of typical clients or typical customers. Depends where the company wants to go and what the marketing and commercial and sales strategies are aiming to find the best client where they can receive the best service offered by the company itself. Obviously, anyone can move cargo in and out the country from personal effect. So when I moved from Italy to Australia in 2004, I had to pack my belongings and my personal effect into a container. The container moved the sea freight from Italy to Australia because obviously it was the cheapest mode of transport. There was no urgency involved. And once I received the goods in Australia, been through the processes through customs, so Australian Border Force, and I managed to receive my belongings and then relocate in the country. Clients, they can be blue chips corporations or multinationals. So anyone somehow, and especially if we are talking about Australia, where the manufacturing of the Australian made, unfortunately, doesn't sees a lot of dependence from other countries overseas in terms of raw materials or in terms of spare parts or any kind of things that you're actually touching or seeing on a daily basis. Anything can be transported. So we can go from the single person or the private person to the corporation and Obviously, we at that point we try to assess the services due to the demand of the client itself.
So how would I find you, or how would your customer find you?
Well, literally in freight forwarding, although we are trying to market the brand, be out there with the most known broadcasts, say, media vehicles, so that today they can be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, so we can name it. Obviously, professionally speaking, the LinkedIn platform, it is very important as well, probably the most important. It's still the old-fashioned cold calling, be on the road, knocking doors, creating a personal network of professionals, and always trying to push yourself into the most, let's say, known networks that they can be recognized, useful in your industries as well.
Correct.
So the truly and professional presence of yourself and your professionalism and what you bring as a person itself in freight forwarding, it really the best method how to approach new clients and how to create that level of trust, because at the end it is a service. It is something that you cannot touch. You're not buying a car, or you're not buying a spoon, or you're not buying a blankets. You're just buying something that someone else is trying to organize on your behalf with the best of the professionalism that that person has.
Great, thank you. So we've all been affected by the pandemic. I'm sure you were significantly. What are some of the changes that you made, innovations you made during the pandemic that you've kept with the business?
Well, changes itself, I would say that despite what I've just said before, human presence, contact, networking, all that really had a huge impact, because obviously we all been affected in to be very mobile, to be out there, to meet in person. So certainly the emphasis went on to the online connections and method how to work remotely. So we had to strengthen quite well all our IT infrastructure, giving opportunity to all the employees in case of emergency and when was necessary to be done, to easily work remotely connected with high-speed internet connection or data connection. Obviously, everyone with a camera and everyone with a proper video where they could have comfortably connection with the rest of the world. I must say that in Australia, all this seems quite sort of a thing that is, what are you talking about? Anyone has a computer, anyone has a camera. But I have to admit that, yes, indeed, probably Australia is well advanced in this area. But in example, dealing enormously for commercial reasons with Europe, and in particular with Italy, we just recognize that these simple tools that we think they are simple here in Australia, sometimes they are not available to everyone. And sometimes they are not available to everyone that they are living in countries that they are part of the G7. And we are not talking about third world. Why? Because no one has a computer at home, or if they have a computer at home, is not the last generation, which might allow you to have a normal interaction online or on video. And because a certain country, they don't have that level of data connections, high speed or fiber, so on, that they allowed everyone in any location to work as they were in the working place. So in this instance, this is what COVID gave us as a challenge at the beginning. We managed to come through the challenge, and now we are all well connected, especially internally in Australia and within Avion Australia.
So do you, are all your people coming to work now all the time, or how does it work?
Well, during COVID, obviously, we've been following whatever the rules they were imposed by the authorities. Freight forwarding, it is always a type of business. This is my personal interpretation, might not go in agreement with other people, probably even my colleagues, where somehow it is necessarily time to time to attend the office, because it's still a business where colleagues, they have to interact with each other. And obviously, that simple interaction, just turning the head from desk to desk, sometimes cannot be replaced working remotely. And yes, so the colleagues during the pure pandemic, they were working from home. As soon as we managed to come back to the office, we been fortunate enough that we have enough space, and we built desk properly designed to have although four positions, sit-down positions, but they have screen in front of them in order to keep the relevant distance with each other. So in terms of management, in terms of how to say, the management point of view, we try to create the space and the environment in the office is suitable enough to give that level of comfort that although leaving the office, there is a space enough, and there is some sort of a comfort to do not be affected as much as possible by the COVID problems.
Changing tack a bit, since you've been a business owner, what do you think has been your biggest learning?
Okay, big concerning. I would say in the past, year and a half, 2 years, access to quality professionals and professionals with qualities. When I mention professionals, I would like to talk about any professional. Any person can express a professionalism on any level in the ladder of an organization or of a company. From the person that does photocopies any day to the top of the major shareholder or major director or and so on. Professionalism, it is something that it is somehow a natural skill. You have it or you don't have it. That 99% relates a lot, in my personal opinion, with your natural instinct to approach things on any kind. You can be a professional fixing your items into the kitchen cabinet because you like to see certain things. I'm not talking about obsessions or OCDs, but because you like to see things in order. And if you apply that very simple method all the way up to your career growth, that is the exact way how you can transform yourself learning a job in a learning curve on any profession, rather than you doing it in the university or MBA, or you just start at a young age to work in a business environment from the bottom of the ladder. But if your mindset is structured in a certain way, obviously you can become a great professional. This is one of my main challenges recently, is the access to good level of and quality labor. Labor that can go from warehouses position, so we are a freight forwarder, and to the documentation and operation positions, to accounting positions, and so on, in any form and in any level. Hence why, as soon as we managed, or we are managing to have the opportunity to keep on board or have on board with us quality people with qualities, we are always aiming to try to form them and give them the incentive to stay on board in order to create a good base of future for all of us.
You know, there's two really significant lessons in there, which I'd like to highlight a little bit more, if you don't mind. There's a great story of Sir Christopher Wren, who was the architect and builder of St Paul's Cathedral, and this has been translated to many buildings. But you know, 3 bricklayers, and he walks along and he says to the first bricklayer, "What are you doing?" "I'm laying bricks." The second bricklayer, "What are you doing?" "I'm building a wall." The third bricklayer, "What are you doing?" "I'm building a cathedral." And it's, you know, a very simple. It's getting the right people with the right passion who. And then the second piece, and it's something I'm struggling with in my own little business now, is documenting what I call the value engine. It's value engines. I don't know if you can see it. They can't. You know, literally the flowchart of how the key processes work, and then documenting the standard operating procedures and checklists so that anybody can step into any of the roles. And it's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And so time consuming, but once it's done, it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, you know, 2 great insights out of that. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, couple of quick questions. When you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
My grandfather.
Right. Yeah. Why?
Well, still talking about commitment, because it was a person of very simple principle and a very simple mind structure. My grandfather, 1908, so unfortunately is not with us anymore, is the one that I managed to spend my youth together with the most. And it just gave me. He used to do always the 3 jobs. He was working for the city council where we coming from, which is La Spezia, close to Cinque Terre in Italy.
Beautiful.
And he was a musician, so he was playing in theaters and during the early 1900s. So the atmosphere was different at the time. And at the nighttime, he was an accountant for a metal workshop.
Mm-hmm.
He was a family man. He did save his money wisely. He did not have many things that he could distract him from the things that he had to do, but still working, he managed to, with the 3 environment of work, he managed with one, give the consistency of income to the family and probably to the future. With the second one, he managed to transform his passion in something that could give him the chance to enjoy his life and probably even having the money to spare and to even more enjoying the life, which was the musician. And with the time to time, nighttime accounting or bookkeeper for the metal workshop, it was giving the cream to buy gifts to everyone else. So he taught me what means the word working hard and working for something, which the years that obviously was born and he went through obviously the Second World War, it's long story there. Obviously, we cannot compare what it is in the modern, in the 21st century, his life. But certainly we can say that it did not let go the chance to try to always with the aim to succeed or to give that sense of comfort and longevity to the family and to the daughters. It did not left joy behind. He maintained his commitment with a regular, dedication to his passion and his duties.
What a wonderful story.
Thank you.
So I'm going to throw in here with a little story of my own, because he obviously affected you dramatically. My children, their grandfather has spent a lot of time with them, and it's a wonderful man. But he did something very stupid on the weekend. He got up a ladder, 2 metre high ladder, in a garden bed to pick lemons from the next door neighbour's tree. That ladder fell down. He fractured his skull. 85. fractured his skull. He's in intensive care in an induced coma right now. And my children, yeah, no, thank you, but my children, may very well have lost a major part of their life. So my commercial lesson to everybody who's listening to this, if you're over 70, don't get up a ladder. That's what the paramedic said to me on Sunday. If you're over 70, do not get on a ladder.
Yeah.
Okay? Because grandfathers are so special.
Oh, it's a treasure, and I can confirm this because I'm a father of one. He's 17, and me and my wife and him, we are alone in Australia after we migrated here in 2004. Mm-hmm. Although he born in Italy, obviously grandparents, they came here once they could, because now unfortunately they are not in the age where they can travel easily anymore. And I believe that my son lost a great induction in life because he could not be exposed completely to the wisdom of the grandparents.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
It's a treasure that we need to maintain alive.
Oh, no, I totally agree. Agree. Okay, more pleasant subject away from my father-in-law. Top 3 business books, podcasts, biographies of leaders. Are you a reader? What would you recommend?
Sorry, can you repeat? I lost you.
The top 3 books, business books, podcasts that you might recommend to the audience.
Look, unfortunately, I have to admit, I'm not a great reader, but I want to specify this. I'm reading a lot of any kind. I'm reading newspapers in Italian, in French, in English, obviously online. And if I have to comment anything in specific, to be honest, I cannot give an answer in this instance.
That's right. I think it's quite interesting. Quite a few the people I'm interviewing, they're so busy with work.
There's a very little mention that I have to give. Unfortunately, I bring with me since when I was a kid problem with readings. So no,
thank you, because that's just reinforcing why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
A quick 15 minutes education.
Yeah.
Any last piece of advice or parting words to up and coming CEOs, managing directors?
Well, that never lose your focus in what you want to achieve. But at the same time, the goals, they have to be set. They have to be real. And the path, you need to see the end of the path somehow. So it's not a never-ending working in progress, because somehow it becomes something that at the beginning can give you a lot of joy, but if you don't see the end, or if you don't plan the phase out, or if you don't plan, and this doesn't have to be a sad advice, it is only something that can give you even a better life, because the level of accomplishment when you reach that goal, it's immense. And this is the only thing.
Great advice. I coach 3-year and quarterly, and we celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating. One of my clients, 9 years grew to $125 million in revenue. And second time I sat down with them, I said, "Well, when did you? How long have you been going?" "Oh, we had our 9th birthday last week." "How did you celebrate?" They didn't, and they had never celebrated. It was extraordinary. 150 staff, when they did the celebration, to celebrate a couple of months later, the change of culture was just extraordinary.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, that's the end of the interview. Marco, thank you for your insights. It's fabulous.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again.